Thank you for joining me in the Creating Resilience video series. This is the second video in the series. In the last video, we talked about the three parts of the brain: the survival brain, the emotional brain, and the thinking brain. And in this video, I'm going to give you an analogy that makes it a little bit easier to talk about and to remember. So I took the human brain and I put a little twist on it and I overlaid a car. So look where the brain is in that car, the different sections. The survival brain is towards the back. The middle brain looks like maybe it's in the back seat, and the front of the brain looks like it's in the front seat. Think about it this way. If somebody's in the survival part of their brain, it would be a pretty scary place to be in the trunk of a car. Think about if somebody was trying to stop you in the trunk of a car. You would fight, you would try to run away, or you might freeze and say, do whatever, just don't hurt me. But this is what's really important about being in the trunk of your brain. Once that lid is shut on that trunk, you have no control at all where that car is going. You're simply reacting to the environment around you. So when that car speeds up, you fall back. When it turns right, you fall left. You can only react to what's happening in the environment. You have no control over the car. So let's think about the back seat. If you're riding in the back seat of a car, you might be having a pretty pleasant emotion. Maybe you're sitting back there, you're going on vacation. You don't really care how you're getting there. Somebody else is driving the car. You're looking out the window, enjoying it. Or if you're back there and you're maybe having a more difficult emotion, you might be trying to backseat drive and tell that driver where to go in that car. But ultimately, you don't have control where that car is going. You're still just sitting in the back seat, instinctively reacting to what's going on around you. You don't have pure control of that car. You might have a little influence. That's like being in the emotional part of your brain. You really might feel like you have some control, but in fact, you are instinctively reacting. If you're in the front part of your brain, in the thinking part of your brain, that's like being in the front seat of a car and driving. You're making all sorts of decisions as you drive. If you're going to get off in a few exits, you have to look behind you and see when you have to change lanes so you can get over in the right lane. You might have to speed up or slow down. You're making all sorts of decisions and being able to remember where you're going and what turns you have to make. So being in the front seat of your brain is like being in the thinking part of your brain, where you're using your working memory and you're making decisions and you're planning things out and going through and creating your goals and setting them and achieving them. That's like the front seat. That's where we thoughtfully respond. We all have three parts to the brain. We all can very instinctively go from the front seat to the trunk. We're built that way. That's for survival. If something's really threatening, we're going to go in the trunk of our brain and we're going to fight, flight, or freeze. Most people, if they're in the trunk of their brain, will have to crawl into the back seat to get into the front seat. And I'll explain that a little bit more in a moment. But know that first responders are often trained to be able to thoughtfully respond from the front seat, even though they are actually in a very threatening situation. But the only thing they have to remember is when that threatening situation is over, they actually need to spend some time in that back seat, in that emotional state, in order to process the emotions and what has happened so that their body can actually physically heal, not just their mental capacities, but their body also. So there's different needs in different parts of the car, and that's why we have to crawl into that back seat. Think about if you were in the trunk of a car. Think about what you would need or what you would want. You'd want to get out, right? I've heard people say, I would want my cell phone, but the cell phone is there to help you get out. What your need is when you are in the trunk of your brain, in that survival brain, what your need is for safety. You want to feel safe. In the back seat, when you're feeling some emotion, I want you to think about this. Imagine that you're home alone and you just found out that your best friend or your daughter or your sister is pregnant and they were really wanting to have a baby. And you're so excited about it, but you're sitting home alone. Would you sit there home alone? Yeah, you would probably call somebody or text somebody. The need in the back seat is connection. Anytime we have a heightened emotion, we need to connect either with somebody else, but sometimes we need to connect with ourselves. I don't know about you guys, but when I get angry, sometimes it's like, just leave me alone. I need to be alone. I need to connect with myself when I feel that heightened emotion. So that's the need in the back seat, in the emotional state. In the front seat, that's where we can actually start finding meaning. It's what in what's going on around us. So front seat need is finding meaning. And these needs are really very important. If we want to be in the front seat, we definitely have to feel safe. And it really helps if we feel some strong connection us to be in that front seat. So that's what the needs are in the different parts of the brain. So your reflection question with this video is think about a time today when maybe you were in the back seat of your brain. Maybe you were feeling some heightened emotion. And then also think about a time when maybe you were right in that front seat. You were really thoughtfully responding about something. And your action step is to at least 3 times a day pause and think about where someone else might be in the car at that exact moment. Or you can pause and think about where are you in the car at that moment. But stopping and reflecting and then taking some action steps and continuing to kind of question, where am I and where is somebody else? Those are great ways to use this information so that it stays with you and becomes a part of who you are in your everyday life. Thank you again for joining me for the second video. I hope Brain is a Car made sense to you and can help you understand your brain and your reaction or responses to the world around you.